Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying.
Yes, guys, welcome back to an exclusive live stream of the Cannon Podcast on deadline day, Monday, the 3rd of February, 2025. Arsenal have signed no one, and we're going to talk about it. Thank you all for being here. If you're watching us live, if you're listening to us back, make sure you drop us a like and subscribe and all those sorts of good stuff. If you listen to us on Spotify, etc., make sure you do that. We're going to be live for sort of 45 minutes, an hour or so, just to talk through everything. As we sit through, we also just recorded a main podcast talking about the game, which will be out tomorrow on pod, etc., or well, yeah, when you're listening to this, so Tuesday. We're going to talk through, as far as we know right now, Monday the 3rd of Feb at 7:02. Nothing is happening. Arsenal are not making any signings. Although George did just say,
listen, now we've got 8 in heaven, pure profit, 1 in, 1 out, baby. Who knows?
Why aren't you happy? Why aren't you happy? It's pure profit on 8 in heaven. Fans.
Oh my God. You gotta laugh or you'll cry.
Yes. So, as we say, things could change. It's 7:00. You never know. We have heard from David Ornstein say that Arsenal don't plan on making any signings. There's been various reports on Matthias Tell saying basically that we looked at it, but we didn't carry on. Obviously, we had the Ollie Watkins bid. We've not heard anything out that. So, yeah, we'll have to ask. Jordan in the comments has already piped up. But did you ask Liverpool fans for permission to start the podcast? I didn't, actually. I shouldn't have. Rohan.
Yeah.
Assuming we don't make a signing, and it could all change. How do you feel about that?
What did I say to you on the first TCP live of January? I said we're not signing anyone. Fast forward now. Yeah, I'm actually fuming. Honestly, I can't hide it. I'm actually really disappointed with the board. I said it previously. I've said it many times that they've done a lot of good work since 2018, since they gained full ownership, and they deserve a lot of credit for that. But I think when I look at this window, we had 9 games in January. There were quotes from Declan Rice literally being as explicit as he possibly could have in that they need help, and they've not been given that in January. They need help from now to the end of the season. I don't like the idea of throwing away league seasons midway through, even if certain things are difficult to achieve. It's not good. I think the players and the manager have been let down massively here.
Oh God.
Yeah, George, it's not good enough. Yeah, it's not good enough. I want to put sort of two things on this, really. I guess the first being, there's a conversation about quality that you can have, that you can say, and you can debate each individual player, and you can go in and say, well, does that player make us better, and does that happen? You can go in and have that conversation. But I actually want to take a step further back and just go numbers. Fundamentally, I'm just going to pull the squad up on the screen right here. Until Saka is back in March, 1 injury, 1 suspension to a Martinelli, a Havertz, and you are really at the bare bones. And we know how this season's gone. Yes, okay, we may have found Wanyeri. I want to come on to maybe how this window, why we think we found ourselves in this situation with Wanyeri in that situation later. But in terms of the forward areas, with Saka and Jesus out, we have fundamentally left ourselves incredibly short for this title race. It's not even a quality question. The quality question is there. But just before that, it's numbers. And that is the thing that I really can't understand, because you're telling me there was no one out there who could have provided us a little bit of depth towards the end of the season. It really was. I don't think fans were expecting Alexander Isak. It would have been lovely. I think most fans accept that might not be possible. But the idea that we're going to leave ourselves numbers-wise this short, I think is crazy.
It is. I cannot be more scathing that I just don't believe in KSC anymore, personally, as ambition. And I've kind of outlined before, I've been really holding this back as far as January goes, because I want to give them the opportunity and the fairness to which we can judge this, right? And factually speaking, ignoring the quality, as we've said, ignoring the point that Arsenal needed a forward as of last summer, and let's just assume that we're playing the pure numbers game as far as what this season mattered, and we're going to do the complete BS about 1 in, 1 out. whilst reporting record revenues, when people were sat there saying to me, like, potentially, well, we don't know about the PSR situation, like maybe that could affect. No. Arsenal are the 5th, I believe, most rich club in the world right now, according to Deloitte. We have record commercial revenues. There are no financial impasse here. Don't give me the financial crap, because that's what it is. I don't want to hear it. It's not the limits on finances. It comes down to the board and in terms of what they've been willing to accept. And I'm not going to say that Mikel is faultless, but I also don't think the man that's been complaining virtually every single freaking press conference for signings, and it got so bad that we had Declan Rice, our own player. Do we know how embarrassing that is to go publicly and demand signings and we still weren't able to do it? It is disgusting. There's nothing that you can sit there and defend. It is it makes me so angry that I look at the ambition of KSC and I question it, because now it goes, if this is going to be the situation that I find myself in, then at what point will we spend? Like, if you don't spend now, when do you spend? Just logically. And don't talk to me about trying to find your first choice targets and your first choice signings. There were opportunities in terms of going out to the loan market and finding something and finding someone to at least come in and offer a job. And you know what? If it fails, I don't care. At least you tried.
Yeah.
At least you sat there and you showed the ambition to say, listen, I'm not happy with the situation. Maybe I made a mistake. I'll fix it in the summer, but I did the best I could to sit there and do the best I can with this team. And they just don't do it. And it's got to the point where I'm sat there livid. We made a profit last summer. I'm sat here now having a look at it. Look, I made my joke about 8 in heaven, but I'm livid. I'm absolutely livid about why we've got to accept this as fans. And I think it's inexcusable. And for me, it undoes a lot of goodwill, because it's not just this window, guys. It is the year. I was disappointed in the entire year, the whole framework that we have sat there and made a profit after reaching the most points that we have in the Premier League era, after we've sat there basically competing to the point where we're ready for a title, we're ready for the next step. And I'm sorry, that costs freaking money. If you're sat there claiming that you're missing X factor in attack, everybody agrees. The board freaking agrees with it. I'm sorry. That's the definition of spending effing money. And you know what? On top of it, why I'm so angry is Arsenal generated it. Even if you want to go away from the fact that, they've spent so much, I don't trust the so-called spending power of Mikel and all those conspiracy theories with it. Okay, at least spend the money that you earned from the club. Don't take it away from the club, which you absolutely have done through your commercial increases, that you've absolutely done. Guys, we have made the exact same Champions League revenue of, I think it's 89 million pounds that we did last year in the Champions League now. We have factually brought in the same amount of Champions League revenue now, and we're guaranteed to make more. We're just guaranteed by moving on to the round of 16. So I'm sat there and I'm fuming. I think it's completely inexcusable. It had nothing to do with just wanting a brand new signing, and it had everything to do with showing me that you have ambition as an ownership to go and allow the team to commit and to compete. And at the very least, it's not even ambition to go and do more. Let the team spend what it freaking earned. Do you know how disgusting that is? That you can't spend what you earned as a club. I find that just completely inexcusable. Again, I have no problem retracting this rant if we sat there and we're sitting there with an Ollie Watkins shirt in the next 3 hours. But this is how I feel right now. This is how dire the situation is and how poor you have to attribute the blame to KSE. That is simply what you have to do. And I worry about the summer. Like, I worry about my plans and my ambition when I sit there and I say, okay, I think we can take the next step. Here are my ideas about it. How can I be confident when I've got an ownership that when the team is wounded and hurting and asking for some kind of investment, again, we're not talking about an Alexander Isaac. We're talking about just spending the money that we freaking have in the bank account, and we're not allowed to do it. It caps what I think we can do, even if we have the money, because we're in a position now where the team is screaming for something and we're not giving it. So, again, that's how I feel. That's how strongly I feel about the failures of if we continue with this. Now we go out, we get an Ollie Watkins, no problem. absolutely no problem to sit there and say, you know what, they pulled something out with immediate impact. They deserve praise. No problem for that. But as of, sorry, what time is it over there? It's only 2 p.m. where I'm at. So it's what, 8 p.m.? Is it 7 p.m.?
12 past 7.
Okay, 12 past 7 with 3 hours to go in the deadline with nothing in, that's pitiful. It's negligent and it's pitiful.
Do you know what it is? It's a case of
Sorry,
like
super chat from Maffio. We're not winning anything. Delete the clubs, as Maffio. And Jack Conley says we've spent 70 million in the last 3 windows.
For me, it's a case of like Arsenal not doing anything in this window is a message from the board saying we don't believe in you for the remainder of the season. That's how it feels to me in terms of they're writing the season off from that perspective. And I find that a very difficult pill to swallow. And the other argument is, Mikel's been, criticized for the big money signing of Kai Havertz, let's say, 65 million and the wages, obviously, which I disagree in terms of signing Kai Havertz. The wages were excessive for sure. But let's say you do think that is a mistake from Mikel Arteta, let's say, which I don't believe it is. Is he not allowed to add more flavour to his squad when the expenditure of Arsenal is less than Man City? It's less than Man United. It's less than Chelsea. It's less than Tottenham since his arrival with what we have done since he's came to the club. Is he not allowed to make more signings? Is he not allowed to reinforce the squad? We spoke a lot about the things that Mikel can do better, but I'll maintain it time and time again. The driver is bringing greater quality into this front line, and this team needed help. And yes, we might pull something out from now till the close of the window, right? But I keep reiterating the fact that we played 9 games in January. 9 games. Saka went out injured, towards the end of December. Jesus done his ACL. We were already short in attacking numbers. And we are short now. And we've played 9 games, which there have been many games in which a lot of these players, a lot of these attackers look dead on their feet. They've not had the help. And it's been really disappointing in that aspect. And especially when you see players like Declan Rice explicitly say, and I've said it, explicitly say that the manager brought Kieran Tierney on at left wing, because we are short. Like, what more can they say? Like, it's a red mark. It's a big red mark. And like I said, they've done a lot of good stuff. It's so disappointing. I expected it though, but it's disappointing when you kind of expect it, but when it's actually the reality, which looks to be the case, it still hurts, isn't it?
It hits, yeah. Yeah, look, I'm probably more towards Rohan in terms of I'm not sort of given up on KSC, but I do think this is a massive red flag from them, because I do believe, and maybe I'll come back to this in the summer and change my mind, but I do believe that they're going to spend big in the summer. I think they are sustainable owners. I think they're sensible owners, but I don't think they're owners that maybe do everything they need to do to win, and that might be the problem. That might be the problem, and then then that might be the problem long term. I really look at our forward areas, and maybe I'll just get that graphic back up again. I'm looking at our forward areas, and I'm looking at Gabriel Martinelli, who, let's be honest, at least has some question marks over him. You might be the biggest Gabriel Martinelli fan in the world. There's some question marks over him. Leandro Trossard is approaching, I think, the end of his deal. I don't know whether he's going to get a new one. I don't know for sure. Kai Havertz, I think we all accept, is going to be a part of our squad, but is he the guy? I don't know. And Raheem Sterling isn't staying. Gabriel Jesus won't be back until potentially 2026.
Next January, right?
Yeah, potentially 2026. So that leaves us with guarantees for next summer, and let's include Ethan as a forward, even though I don't think he's actually, no, I won't, because he's not a forward. Saka, Havertz, like, as absolute guarantees, that's going to be there. We absolutely in the summer need to sign a proper out and out £100 million talent for the forward areas. I think that's probably going to be Isak or someone who will become that. But we also needed to do that versatile forward. Maybe 2, maybe 3, who knows, with resales or whatever. But there absolutely was a world where we needed to do probably a versatile forward or someone who is going to grow in potential, someone out there. The idea that we couldn't go and do that now to become the depth and become the backup now, I think is farcical. It's absolutely farcical. Or even to have a look at someone for 6 months and say, well, we think we want you in the summer, so let's go and do this now. There is talent out there. I mean, how many scouters have George and I done where we've looked at players and there's so much talent out there? And what frustrates me more, potentially, Man City, I guarantee you, even if they'd lost that game yesterday, they go and do that Nico Gonzalez deal. But they saw yesterday we physically could not compete. Today, what they do is they go and spend £60 million on Nico Gonzalez and they fix that issue. We would never do that. We would never do that.
I am tired of Arsenal not being in the conversation to be aggressive in the market. I am tired of this BS that people keep telling me that, oh, it's Brentford, they'll keep their best player. I am tired of this logic. I'm sorry, you don't ask the girl at the bar out. You're never going home with her. You never try. You're never going to find out. And we just don't do this well enough. And, part of the problem of why I'm so far in the KSC out portion is because this isn't just a winter thing. It's the last year. And what this means, we effectively, in my opinion, threw away our potential this season when you combine both the summer window and the winter window. And if we're going to talk about the summer, then it's great, fine. Like, I think we will spend big next summer. But this idea that we're only allowed to spend big every couple years is ridiculous to me. And even the spending big, if we're talking about it, we're still spending what we've made. We've made ridiculous revenues. We've sat there and we've increased. So when you talk about spending big, I don't understand it. I mean, we've sat there and we've created the money that we're spending. So it's not even that we're spending big. I can't even sit there and say, okay, you've sat there and you've gone above and beyond what you should be doing as an owner to help facilitate. They did that in 2023. Let's be fair. They did it in 2023. Praise it. That's excellent, phenomenal. But as far as what this has done for this year, mate, the mistake was in the summer. Then you had an opportunity to rectify it in the winter. Then you lost to injuries, made the situation worse, dug the hole even deeper, and then refused to address it. For me, it's negligence. It's not just giving up on the season, but you haven't done what you needed to do as owners to give the team the ability to win the title. And you didn't even let them spend their resources. So it's shambolic, mate. And like you said, I hate this idea that there was no players. I don't want to be arrogant, but I can sit there and you want to name a position. I can name you 4 or 5 options for the left wing that I think would be top options that we can sit there and go and do. If you want to talk about right wing, I can name 2 or 3 signings that I think you can go out there and do. You want to talk about strikers, I can do the same. This idea that there are no players that improve Arsenal is an arrogant statement, an incredibly arrogant statement for me from fans that I don't think is fair, and it makes plausibility to owners and to a team that deserve more. Yeah. There are always solutions, always.
Yeah, and I think that's there's always players. And not getting attached to talent is another conversation.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's 7:20. Who knows? But I would love to look silly. Frankly, if you're watching this and how silly they look, thank God I look silly if we've signed the right player. I do want to say this though. I do think there is, George, and maybe kind of building on what you just said. I'm not going to name names, but I think there's certain prominent Arsenal fans who do this thing of almost like weaponizing sensibility or weaponizing being sensible.
Yeah,
it's like this sort of thing of any critique of the club is like you're not being sensible, you're not being fair. Hang on a minute, there are times when the club can do stuff wrong. It's okay. Yeah. If you watch our pod, 90% of the time we're praising Arsenal. 90% of the time, and that's not enough for the guys who hate it, and it's probably too much for the guys who like it, whatever it is. Yeah. But there is this thing of sometimes of being of laying out a case, and people go, "Oh, actually, really, there wasn't the talent out there," and you kind of think yourself into this corner because you're trying to be sensible and you're trying to understand it. Now, in a minute, I want to talk about why I think the club have done it. But that is in no way an excuse for what they have done. I think sometimes the reasons that of maybe they didn't think the top talent was out there, or maybe they don't want to invest the money if they feel like the league's going away with it, or maybe they're waiting for Saka. There's loads of reasons, and yes, we can be sensible, but that doesn't win you stuff, and that's what we're here for. And I do think that happens sometimes, and there's this sense of sort of come on, be serious. Well, no, sometimes your club makes mistakes, and that's okay.
Yeah.
O'Malley, they're also making the assumption that Saka is going to come back to his best after a huge surgery. It's arrogant to say that no player out there is good enough for Arteta's Arsenal. There's kind of 2 points there. First one is a very good one. I think again, not burdening, but putting a lot on Saka and expecting him to just jump straight back in is a very good point. But secondly, sort of what George was referring to there. I just don't believe this idea that there's no one who could even be depth for us. Depth. We're not even asking for first team quality, just depth.
Do you know the most frustrating thing about this is the idea of signing X right now is going to block the pathway of Y or Z or whatever letter in the summer. Arsenal, Arsenal are going through a massive rebuild across their front line. You've literally just listed every single forward we have and the uncertainty and doubts amongst a lot of those players. We can make risks whilst without being stupid. We can do that. And I'm just so annoyed.
It's got to the point. It's got to the point where I think, when I'm looking at it, I'll read out the super chat because it's true with Finn Cooper. No forward signing has also affected academy loans. We've got news that Ismail Kabia has been declined his Portsmouth loan down to the championship. He needed that freaking loan, and I'm sorry, he's not ready to come in. Okay. And when I sit there and I have a look at everything, like, you can be equally incredibly angry with some facet of the club and still believe that this club can do big things, believe in all the players. It's a nuanced conversation. On one hand, you can say it's absolutely pitiful the way that we've approached this, and what we've done in the last year is absolutely negligent and quite irresponsible. But you can also say, I think that there are things that we can improve, and as a team, I'm very hopeful for what we can be as a team. But it's got to the point where I'm sat there and I'm looking at it, and you've got Kvaratskhelia that's gone to PSG, and I'm sat there, why aren't you testing Bradley Barcola for somebody that has gone there that can go and make a point? Okay, that doesn't work out. Fine. Why can't you go and test like Brian Mbeumo? Go with the market limit. Be the club that set the market limit with
Ask
a bid.
Question.
Ask the question. If it doesn't work, then okay, you know what? My conversation would be this. KSE tried. I'm happy with the intent. They at least went and put forward a respectful bid for a player. And you know what? It's a difficult window and we couldn't do it. But no, we did not even do that. That wasn't the context within this window. We've been silent. We've had more injuries. I'm looking out at what's gone out there in the market, and I think Santiago Gimenez from Feyenoord out to AC Milan is a £30 million signing that, by the way, we were linked with last year. If you really want to go with just links, which I think is,
but then you couldn't sell him, George. You can't sell players.
Yes, you can't. You can't sell those. So I look, at the end of the day, mate, for me, it's inexcusable. I think fans that want to go on their high horse and critique fans for being angry are what you said. It's really unfair for me. You're trying to take this moral sensibility high ground in terms of you trying to justify the club. You can criticize your club. It doesn't mean that it's the end of the world or you lose faith in everything. But you have to call it for what it is. Fundamentally, it is two players that have gone out injured on an already light squad that you've refused to supplement. And I've never in my entire life of supporting Arsenal have seen any team, not just Arsenal, I've never seen any team have a player go on Sky Sports and say, yeah, we're light, I hope we'll do something, and that be your £100 million signing and do nothing. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
So
Invincible's 49 super chat. Thank you so much. Very kind of you. Context: I've been KSE out since 2014. I've had the opinion Mikel Arteta has papered over their cracks. I don't buy the spending argument relatively to the top six. He hasn't spent outwardly. They've spent the bare minimum to be competitive.
Well, we have spent in the context of a big six clubs. We have spent
but it's difficult because you're comparing yourself to crazy money like Chelsea and City. Look, I think I sit where I said earlier on KSE, and I'll let you two come in as well. But I just feel that overall, since they took majority ownership, I'm a big fan of them. This is a massive blot against their copybook. I expect them to massively invest in the summer. But I think to show the lack of ambition they've showed and to show the negligence to the squad and the playing stuff, it's also bodies on the line. It's like people's hamstrings and ligaments on the line. Like, you don't understand what you're doing to people by playing them this much. Someone like a Kai Havertz, it's borderline disrespectful to not give people that support. So that this is a massive blot. Again, the overall record I have a different conversation about, but I do buy it in this window, absolutely.
I think for me, I sit in that same camp. They've done a lot of good work since 2018, like I've alluded to, since they've gained full ownership. But it is a massive red flag, and it's a case of the injuries that we've sustained this season, right? It's been something that nobody envisaged. But injuries in general is not just exclusive to Arsenal. There's a wider football problem here in terms of the number of games players are playing, and many players have came out and they've spoke about this topic, and they've been laughed at. They've been laughed at to just get on with it. And I just feel, I keep going back to it and I'm kind of repeating myself. I just feel like a lot of these players, they've given it absolutely everything, even in games in which we've not been able to achieve the desired outcome, and they needed help and they haven't been given that. And that is such a bad look, especially when you look at what Manchester City are doing, especially when you look at other clubs so far this season in the January market, what they're doing as well. And for us to not do anything, Spurs. Look at Spurs, exactly. For us to not do anything, that and it, like, obviously, pretty much every Arsenal fan out there sees the league as being very difficult to achieve, but it's still a possibility. The Champions League, it's going to be very difficult for us to win that, but it's still a possibility. There's still a chance that we can go through to the Carabao Cup final as well. And it feels like the intentions from the board is a case of, we'll keep our powder dry. We will look to invest in the summer, because I'm pretty certain we will invest in the summer. Yeah. But you can't throw away seasons. You can't do it. It's just not right. And that's what we're doing.
My question is, okay, fine. Let's assume that we're keeping our powder dry. Let's come from the perspective of, we've got this idea that, we're going to spend big in the summer for these major targets, and we don't want to waste money so that we take away from our pot there. We don't want to make an expensive mistake. Let's take that, that approach. Why can't you go and have clarified loans like Evan Ferguson? You're talking about your Mika Bireth. You're telling me we can't loan somebody with an option to buy that has absolutely no impact on your finances, bar a £5 million fee. We can't even do that to try and supplement a forward line that is crying out for something. For God's sakes, we're talking about putting Kieran Tierney left wing to give us an option. Are we saying that there's no one in world football that is in the loan market that can do better? By the way, Kieran has been great at left wing. I'm not sitting there to say, it's been horrible. But are we really trying to make the logical argument that there is no one better than Kieran Tierney left wing on the loan market that could have at least helped us, and at least not even given output, given rest to plan A? At least let Kai Havertz, who I don't even think is the solution. We need more than that. We need to go above that in quality, but at least give them a rest. And we haven't been able to do it. So I'm sat there, I'm really annoyed. I don't buy this argument about lacking a sporting director. That's something that they knew back in November. Actually, earlier, they knew it in September that Edu was leaving. But it was officially done maybe in November. We had gardening leave. We had over 6 months planning to do this. And the situation again got worse. So the thing that we already knew we needed to do just got worse. So it didn't change the objective. Objective was still sign player. Now just more people got injured, so signed players was the objective. And it didn't happen. So, yeah, mate, I'm incredibly disappointed. I go so hard on the KSC topic because I combine this with the summer. And for me, what was their idea? Like, if you're talking to me, George, 2024, the entire precedent, I don't know, this is a question for you guys. They said that X Factor was something that was missing all of the season before, right? What would be the board logic for going the entirety of the year without addressing the one thing that you stated was the thing missing in the squad? Not me, who I agree with, by the way, but you said that, the board, that was the one thing that you felt was missing in the squad, and you didn't do it for the entirety of 2024.
I do think it was a leak to The Athletic where members of the board, I think it's hard to say they said it themselves. They said it at a time to The Athletic. I think but I'm not saying they didn't feel it. I just think we've gone a little bit overboard with that.
What about Mikel then?
No, Mikel said a load of stuff. I don't know. I mean, the only logic, and this is another one, the only logic I can think of is that, well, two things. Firstly, the talent that they want isn't available in January, which is valid, but that, again, doesn't detract from everything we said earlier about you can still go and do stuff. And secondly, maybe the only thing we haven't discussed yet so far is the emergence of Ethan and Miles. And again, I'm not making excuses. I'm trying to understand the logic of what they're doing. Maybe they feel with the emergence of Ethan and Miles, there's two basically £100 million talents, as we've called it, that have come out of the woodwork, and that's kind of saving our season. Maybe.
For the midfield, sure. How like in attack, it didn't
What do I
change.
think on the right hand side for Ethan? I'm not. By the way, I don't agree
Sure.
with them. To be clear.
Sure, but we still lack the one thing that has been maintained throughout the entirety of press conferences for over a year at this point. And even Ethan, in his best note, is just somebody that backs up Saka. It wasn't we lack depth. It was we lack box efficiency. It was we lack X factor. It was we lack moments in the squad between the boxes to get you over the line. That was what the message was that we were lacking. Ethan doesn't solve that. Ethan solves giving our best players a rest. Ethan solves the logic that we made with Sterling on loan to let your top players have an ability to play. That's what he solves.
And he's 17. It's too much.
And he's 17.
Yeah.
And so it's just, yeah, mate, like I'm clearly fuming about it. What annoys me the most about it, though, is I look at this team and I felt this was our year and we just didn't do everything. And, if you're telling me, okay, it's going to be a case of we have owners that every couple years they invest, I think that's damning. And I think that when you get to a point where this team have overperformed to what they did last season and you don't invest, that's what I'm upset and I'm worried about the future for. Not that, I didn't get my signing in January and I'm losing my mind because of that. It is the message from me that sends. I don't know about you.
Plateau, can't it, George? It can lead to plateauing, because quality is always the driver. Like I'll keep maintaining it, tactics and being able to set a team up accordingly, right? You've seen it across the entirety of the division, right? You look at Southampton, you look at Ipswich, you look at the way they play. There's a lot of similarities to how they play, to how Chelsea play, and you can see the ideas, you can see the intent, and it's all really nice in terms of structurally, it looks quite similar in certain phases. But what's the difference? It's the quality. So if you're not going to continue to invest, which I do think they will do, that's my feeling. But if you're not going to invest consistently every single window, looking to explore opportunities to try and ensure that you can maintain that gap, then you're going to lead to a plateau. And that's where I can understand the frustrations. And actually, just going back to a different kind of conversation, this is where I feel Edu got a lot of unfair stick in the summer window. I'll maintain that. I think when you're looking at Edu's entire tenure at Arsenal, there are things that he could have done better in terms of exploring the South American market. I've mentioned that before. I think both you two have as well. But in terms of the summer, Arsenal had one of their best ever selling windows. In fact, it's probably our best selling window in our history, in terms of being able to move players out. We had players who, through the really good work that we did in terms of proactive contract management, we got good money for a lot of players. And that was a big part of what Edu did. But in terms of incomings, do you not think that Edu or Arteta didn't want to bring in a forward signing? Like a proper forward signing? Because of course they did. It's like they're not stupid. So it's a lot of this is on the board. Well, in fact, all of it is on the board because they are the one who control our destiny here in terms of what we do in the market. So yeah.
This comes in super chats. Nick XYC says Spurs have outspent us by 100 million since the start of this season, excluding the Tel and Danso money without the Champions League. Good. Andre Bergera says, I need us to sign someone of a different profile. Thank you for being a member, Andre. Akash says, being safe versus being smart and recruitment is the reason we won't win titles. Our rivals are better. Coaching or mentality is not the effing problem. Liverpool are where they are because of how smart they are. Good recruitment is more important than coaching. We let down Rice, Saka, Timber, and Kai. And finally, Gakpo, Gravenberch, etc. We need our own Edwards. Well, of course, where we go next in the sporting director is a conversation we can have another day. I do think, though, maybe the thing that Akash said I think is interesting is the message this sends to other players. Like seeing other teams have issues, solve them in the market, and react straight away when we don't do that. Mikel Arteta, if he left Arsenal, I think this is another thing when people say, get rid of Arteta. I'm telling you, if Mikel Arteta left Arsenal, there was a managerial vacancy anywhere, he would get it. Anywhere in football. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Man City, he would get it straight away. I guarantee you. I absolutely guarantee you. We have a generational coach on our hands here, and we need to be careful. I think he'd stay at Arsenal. I'm not, he signed a new deal. I'm not saying he's going to leave because of this, but if we're not careful in moments like this, we can really damage that relationship, and I think that's not good at all.
Like, how far do you think that would go? Like, I mean, I'm with you. It's not a case of I'm worried in the summer, but how many times can he be burnt where that would be the case. You know,
Yeah,
like
it's the trust thing. Ultimately, if he's we don't know the conversations he's having, but from what he's saying, he's very polite publicly. But he was saying my phone was off, I wasn't looking at it. How many times can they say, look, we just haven't been able to do it this window, before he goes, okay, but then how can I trust in the summer when I'm also getting texts from Florentino Perez saying, hey mate, how you doing? How can I trust you're going to get Isak across the line for me? How can I trust that you're going to go and do the right thing in the market for me? I don't know if I can. And I've seen it maybe happen with Rice. Was that the point where one player that we got across the line, and that sounded like a charm offensive from Mikel and Adu, but a lot of the other deals have either been Mikel led or haven't been particularly, I would say, the club going out and buying him that player, right? We're going to go and sign that player for you because we're Arsenal and you get that player. Feels like he's had to do the legwork, or they haven't got it done. That feels like it's what's happened, and he would be understandable, I think, in feeling frustrated by that. Vijay says, I think we should go for Vinny on a loan with an option to buy. After Luka to the Lakers, anything is possible. Someone who understands basketball, can you explain what happened? I don't really know. Luka Doncic?
Yeah,
No
I'm a casual with that. So
From the Mavs to the Lakers. Can someone in the comments please explain that? Because I don't understand what that means. Thomas, even if we win the league by some miracle, I'll still be furious with KSE and the board for forcing Mikel to achieve it in this way. Disgraceful. Well, I mean, if we do win it, based on this window, I mean, that is one of the great footballing achievements.
Oh, no doubt. And look, I think what's the most frustrating is I see a club that, for me, is a sleeping giant to my expectations of being the Madrid of England. That has been what my vision for Arsenal should be. Like, I look at it, and that's what I want it to be. And when I see continued evidence that I'm going to be handicapped by things that are in my control. So first off, we've all been angry about what's happened this season, right? Like, the biggest disappointment that I feel betrayed is because I feel that the owners haven't done what I've seen them do in this year since they took full ownership back in 2018. And I look back and I start to say, like, is this the future? Like, I've seen you do this before to me, and it's unreasonable. And it was actually to the point of actually making money. And I saw it with Arsene Wenger for so long. And I sit there and I say, you start to lose your hope, because ever since 2018, we've been on a great ride and everybody's been pulling in the right direction and in the same direction. And for the first time, it's felt like this year, since 2018, is a full year that the board and Arsenal and Mikel have all had a disconnect. And the playing staff on the pitch are doing their part. So it's coming to a point of, how do you bridge that gap? How do you bridge those things for multiple people? I don't know the answer. I don't think it's as simple as a sporting director. What I will say, to maybe end on a positive, is I do believe the sporting director links that we've been linked to are elite, incredible options. I look at Simon Rolfs from Bayern Leverkusen, who's a really high candidate. I think it's an incredible appointment. He's been doing phenomenal stuff with Leverkusen for multiple years. I look at Olabe from Real Sociedad. We all know that connection in terms of how many players there, but even some of the talents that he's been able to sign in terms of building a team, incredible. I look at Atletico Madrid and Berta, who has just been let go, and we had been linked to him, top. I look at Scuro. I look at Sartori from Bologna, who we had links to. These are really good names. So I don't doubt that the process in terms of us getting a sporting director, and a good one, by the way, won't be the case, right? Like, I think we'll get a very good one because all the names on the short list are top options. But again, it's just about a huge disappointment in the team and the board not doing what I think they had the potential to do. It's like looking at your kid and saying, I know you can get an A+, and you're sitting there doing video games and you're getting a C. Okay, you're doing enough. You haven't failed. You're doing enough to get by. And it's not right. You'd have a talk with your kid and you'd say, you got to fix up. You've got to sit there and create a level of ambition to do better. And you got to believe it yourself, not me. I can't be the one that tells
George
you
is your
to do
dad.
better. Oh God. We're a couple of years away from that.
Project Mbappe from day one.
Yeah, literally. Like, Dad, stop talking about technical empathy.
Oh my God.
Mojoman says Fulham trying to get Chukwueze, hijack the deal. That's another thing. We never hijack deals. I want to hijack a deal. Now we are getting into stupid transfer stuff. Nick XYC says, "How is this any different from the check window?" Well, I think that
check.
Yeah, I was going to say. I
Bought
was
a
literally
player.
just going to say that we at least bought
I'll
check.
tell you how it's different. We bought a player. Yeah, we bought someone. I suppose that being in the summer as well, and it was a similar sort of context, though, isn't it? In terms of like needing a striker, and yeah. Anyway, O'Malley, this window is just proof summer window was mismanaged badly. You replaced left backs multiple times because they're injury prone, but not having an alternative to an injury prone Jesus is crazy. I think that's another aspect of this as well. Is like it's just fanciful that like everything's going to go perfect until Saka returns. Saka's going to step on the pitch, and from minute one, he's going to be absolutely perfect. We're going to win the league, and we're going to go off into the sunset. We all know we're going to drop some points, and we'll all be going, "Why didn't we do anything in January and the summer?" And we'll all be fuming on an instant reaction, and I'll be sat right in this chair. I know it's going to happen. Sway says AC Milan have signed 2 forwards. Wink, wink. I don't know who they're signing. I'm presuming Felix and I don't know who the other one is. Oh, Okafor, is it?
Or no? It's Okafor, Felix, and Santiago Gimenez was the other one.
But Villa have signed
Asensio, Rashford,
and Rashford, and Marlon. They signed Marlon earlier in the window. They've only let one forward go.
So what you're saying is...
You never know. Do you know what I tweeted? When I saw the Asensio news, I thought, this is it. So I tweeted Arsenal signing forward. I woke up, Jesus Christ. People were fuming.
I'm telling you now, Arsenal fans just watch the Chelsea West Ham game, enjoy yourself, and then go to bed. Nothing's happening.
This one, though, and this is maybe another aspect of this fairly. Arsenal fans have been patient for 22 years. It's unfair.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're an owner and you know you have a club that used to win stuff and have not won anything for 20 years, a lot of which have been, yes, okay, you haven't been majority owners, but you've been involved for a long time. There comes a point where, like, if you're at Chelsea, they've won stuff recently. Your City, you won stuff recently. Even United, there's a new ownership. You can kind of do this sustainable thing for a little while because that's not who they've been. You can manage in different ways. I feel like if you're an Arsenal owner, you have to recognize the situation you're in. We are what's the light paper, whatever it's tinder box, whatever it is. We are ready to blow, both as a team based on what we did yesterday, and we'll come to we've done the analysis on that game. It was unbelievable. We're so ready to win stuff. So why are we doing it? We are the team, and I think the reason our fan base sometimes is criticised, and maybe validly, is because we all feel how close we are, but we feel like we've been the longest without it compared to our rivals, and that is really the fact that they can't recognise that is so frustrating.
And just look at yesterday, right? That win, and we spoke about it on the main pod, which you'll be able to see tomorrow. And the dopamine rush that you get from that, and you're on a high all day. And imagine we just pulled something out of the bag and we did something to give us an even bigger high going into that game against St. James's Park. But it's so sad that it's deflating, yet despite the fact that we had such a good win yesterday against the champions of England, regardless of where they are and the turbulence that they've endured this season, that is the champions of England that we have just slapped 5 goals against, in which 2 Hale-End talents, £100 million Hale-End talents, have been spawned from our academy and have dunked on their head tops. Like,
well, they are Emirates era in the gym right now. Miles and Ethan, alhamdulillah, mate. That's all we've got right now. Akash says Guillaume Balagwe once said the club is too reliant on Mikel. He said this 4 years ago, even truer now. I think what George was saying about a disconnect, I think is absolutely the case, though, and rumours about Edu, etc. You never know what's going on. Andre, please, my glorious Swedish king, Daniel Ek, buy us.
He still followed, didn't he?
Daniel Ek follows me. Odds on I send a DM?
Right now.
Hey, bro, you up?
The definition of does anybody want me to rap for a little bit?
Yeah. Chris Hughes. Oh my God, what a go.
This has been obviously a frustrating window. It's been a frustrating stream. It's been a frustrating year for Arsenal. Can we do some copium, please? And I know it's copium, but please can we do some copium? We were really good yesterday. Ethan Wanyeri's really good. Miles is really good. Kai Havertz scored a goal. Raheem Sterling, no, nothing there. Trossard's looking good at the minute.
Very good. Stepped up in Saka's absence.
Martinelli's
had some really good form.
I haven't got much.
Help. Look, we are still. I will end because I've got it out so that people can see as far as what I think about the board and everything. As far as the team goes, I do think that this is a result that you can take to wake up a season. And even though we haven't done what we needed to do in the transfer market, I hope that the team takes stuff beyond that and puts things in their own hands and is able to ignore the horrific negligence that we've seen above them and just sit there and try to push on, mate, because they have the talent. And, I trust the boys. And what it comes from, it's not even, I'll define it this way. It's not even copium as far as boards and whatnot. I have more trust in the boys than I do anything else. And I have a trust in what I saw on the weekend in terms of what gave us 5-1. And I trust that. I trust that feeling, what that was able to generate. And I have an ability to trust that we'll likely be able to replicate that. I'm still going to be really pissed. And I think it's one of those things that you just can't change. So like we say everything that we're going to say about it right now. And then when the summer comes along, we can readdress things, I guess. But one thing that I hope we don't do is I hope we don't go back. And I hope we remember how we feel now. I hope we remember how we felt last summer as well. And, we are a bit more demanding as far as what this team can be, because that's the only thing that I think frustrates me. If we're not going to go and maximize our potential, I'm not going to be angry. I'm just going to be disappointed.
That's even worse. That's pure George Dad stuff, isn't it? That's George Dad stuff. Let's do this super chat from George, who says, off topic, what do you think about the way the NHL in America deals with their VAR? On-field decision stands, coaches call refs to the screen. If coach is wrong, they get penalized, gets rid of VAR, refs and VARs used sparingly. I haven't watched it, so George, you have to tell me.
It's actually incredible. So it's the whole idea of essentially challenging a play. And so they don't have VAR continuously, but a coach can feel that a wrong call was done. And if you do have that, they get penalized in terms of like minutes, in terms of taking somebody else off the pitch. So like it could be a case of, either you take, I don't know what the football equivalent would be, because it's not a timed sport in the same way. Like it's 45 minutes, whereas, hockey's like a 20-minute thing, and you have penalties every 2 minutes that you can go a man down, right? I don't know if that means that maybe you get a yellow card as a manager or something like that, in terms of that you may be asked to be kicked to the stands. But I think it's a phenomenal idea, because what that does, the only problem is you should get maybe like a finite number of challenges, which is the case in the NHL. Like you don't have unlimited challenges that you can do. But I think that would be really smart.
I like a challenge, but then you get into like teams trading their VAR guy, right? Which would be quite fun. We'll finish with this quote. September 2024, Mikel Arteta, Stan and Josh Kroenke are the hungriest sports people I've ever met. I've never seen ownership like it. The level of support they give you, that's something incredible. Rohan, final reflections?
Yeah. Moving on to the next question.
It's really frustrating. Look, I think when we look back in 10 years, I do 100% believe this team will have won titles under this ownership. I do believe that we're going to go and do big stuff in the summer. I believe Mikel Arteta is going to have an unbelievable career. I think these players are going to win stuff for Arsenal Football Club. But right now, on Monday, the 3rd of February at 7:50, when we haven't signed anyone, it is incredibly frustrating. And yeah, I think it's negligent, as we said it would be if they didn't sign anyone. It is negligent for so many reasons that we've gone through. It's really frustrating. But we'll finish there. Thank you for being here.
The only person that we can, all our faith is on one person, and it's Ollie Watkins' uncle Bazza. Every single time Ollie Watkins scores against us, he always mentions his Uncle Baz. So come on.
Who's his Uncle Baz?
He's Ollie Watkins' entire family's like Arsenal. So like every time he scores against us, he's always on about how his uncle is always fuming that he scored against us and stuff. So he's the guy who can get this deal done.
Should we say a prayer to Uncle Baz?
It's Uncle Baz.
Dear Uncle Baz.
Our Father who art in Uncle Baz.
Our Father who art in Uncle Baz.
We pray to thee to give us a signing of the standard of your young son, Sir Ollie Watkins. Amen.
Thank you, Uncle Baz. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for watching. If you're watching us for the first time, make sure you like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Check out these boys on various platforms. Rohan is at Rohan Jivan AFC. Are you? Still don't like it. And George is at George V _AFC. I am at David _Ornstein. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for watching. And thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying.